Welcome to Sleepy Tales, a place where myths, legends, and ancient stories are told slowly and softly to help you drift into a peaceful sleep. Before we begin, I'd love for you to share where you're from and what time it is where you are. It's always fascinating to see how far these stories travel, and if you enjoy relaxing stories, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a night of our peaceful tales. Now, settle in, relax, and allow tonight's bedtime story carry you into sleep.
Before time itself, the gods ruled, and none were mightier than Zeus. Born to defy Cronus, his rise was shaped by betrayal, fate, and power, leaving a mark on gods and mortals alike. This is the story of Zeus, a tale of power, love, revenge, and a legacy that still echoes through history. The birth of Zeus and the fall of Cronus. Long before the world had form, before gods ruled from mountaintops and men walked the earth, there was only chaos, a deep, boundless void. Not the kind of chaos that comes with sound and fury, but rather a silent, endless stillness, an empty canvas waiting for the first brushstroke of creation. From that nothingness came the first powers. Gaia, the earth, rose as a firm foundation. Uranus, the sky, stretched himself over her. Then came Tartarus, the abyss beneath the world, and Eros, the primordial force of desire and creation. From Gaia and Uranus came the Titans, beings of immense power, older than any memory. But before we trace their rule, before we see the sky darken with war and the earth tremble with rebellion, we must speak of a child born in secret, a child destined to change the fate of gods and mortals alike. His name was Zeus. Even before his first breath, the story of Zeus rippled through the tapestry of the cosmos. Zeus did not arrive in a time of peace. He was born into a world of paranoia and tyranny. His father, Cronus, was king of the Titans, and though he ruled during the mythic Golden Age, a time when the earth yielded its bounty without labor and mortals lived long, untroubled lives, his heart was restless. Cronus had come to power not through peace, but betrayal. His father, Uranus, had feared the strength of his children, locking them deep within the earth. It was Gaia, their mother, who forged a blade and begged her children to act. Only Cronus found the courage to strike. One night he attacked Uranus, castrating him with a sickle of stone. From the blood that soaked into the earth sprang the Furies, the giants, and other strange beings. Cronus took the throne, and the Titans were free. But a sky cursed him with its dying breath. Cronus was warned. One day a child of his own would rise against him, just as he had risen against his father. Fear rooted itself deep in his heart. So when his queen Rhea bore him children, he swallowed them, one by one. Hestia, Demeter, Hera, then Hades and Poseidon. Each newborn was wrapped and handed to him, and each met the same fate, consumed whole, imprisoned within his belly. Rhea, the mother of these divine children, was overcome with grief. She watched her family vanish one by one. Her pleas did nothing to soften Cronus's fear. When she became pregnant a sixth time, she knew something had to change. She fled. In the dead of night, Rhea traveled to the island of Crete. There, in a quiet cave on Mount Dicte, she gave birth to her final child. The sky outside was heavy with stars. The air carried the scent of wild herbs and ocean salt, and in that hush, a cry rang out. Zeus had entered the world. He was radiant from the start. Even as a babe, there was something unshakable in his presence. as if the storm already slept within his lungs. Rhea knew this was the child of prophecy, the one Cronus feared, and the one who could bring balance to a world trembling under paranoia. To protect him, she wrapped a stone in swaddling clothes and presented it to Cronus. As expected, Cronus swallowed the bundle without question, believing the threat had passed. Meanwhile, Zeus was hidden in the cave, raised in secret. Some say a divine goat named Amalthea nursed him, her milk rich with magic. Others say he was guarded by the Koretts, young warriors who danced and clashed their weapons to drown out his cries so Cronus would not hear them. The nymphs of the forest bathed him in spring water, and the bees of the mountain brought him honey. As he grew, the world beyond the cave remained under Cronus's grip. The Golden Age, though calm on the surface, was sustained by fear. Mortals prospered, but the sky remained watchful. The earth held its breath. Deep in the bowels of Cronus, 5 immortal siblings waited in darkness, unaware of the passage of time, unborn, yet undying. Zeus grew tall and strong. He learned the movements of the stars and the secrets of the earth. He listened to the stories whispered by the wind and watched the creatures of the forest. Though isolated, he was never alone. Nature itself seemed to guide and prepare him. By the time he reached manhood, his purpose was clear. He left the cave and journeyed back to the lands of the Titans. Disguised as a servant, he entered the court of Cronus, careful not to reveal his identity. There, he met the goddess Metis, a daughter of the Titans, known for her wisdom and cunning. Together, they devised a plan to bring down Cronus, not with violence, but with strategy. Metis brewed a powerful potion and gave it to Zeus. In disguise, he served the drink to Cronus. The potion worked swiftly. Cronus convulsed, and from his body came the children he had swallowed, fully grown and radiant: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. They emerged into the world as if waking from a long dream. Now 6 strong, united by blood and purpose, the children of Cronus stood together. Their father's reign would not end quietly. The Titans, ancient and vast, still held dominion. Cronus would not surrender the cosmos without a fight. And so began the Titanomachy, the war of the gods. But that tale, with its storms and fire, giants and betrayal, belongs to the next chapter. For now, it is enough to know this. The sky had cracked. The earth had shifted. A child born in a cave, hidden from fate, had stepped into the world, and the name Zeus, once a whisper in the dark, would soon echo through all of time. The Titanomachy, War of the Gods. The world, once quiet and fertile under the reign of Cronus, now shuddered with the sound of awakening power. Zeus had freed his siblings from the belly of their father, and together they had stepped into the light, no longer shadows hidden in myth, but gods poised to claim their destiny. The storm was no longer a whisper. It had a name, and that name was Zeus. But power is never surrendered willingly. Cronus, king of the Titans, did not cower before the new gods. He was ancient, shaped by the cosmos itself, his will forged in betrayal and prophecy. When he learned of his children's defiance, he summoned the full force of Titan kind. His brothers and sisters, born from Gaia and Uranus, rallied to his side. The world braced for war. Thus began the Titanomachy, the great war between the old gods and the new. It was a battle that would last 10 years. From the beginning, it was clear the war would be unlike anything the cosmos had seen. Mountains trembled, seas boiled, the sky split open with fire. The very fabric of the universe quaked beneath the force of God against God. Zeus, though young compared to the Titans, quickly emerged as a true leader. He wielded charisma, intelligence, and the ability to inspire loyalty. His brothers Poseidon and Hades stood beside him, mighty in their own right. Poseidon, god of the sea, could summon waves that swallowed entire coasts. Hades, lord of the underworld, moved through shadow and death. Their sisters, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, brought wisdom, protection, and life to their side. Still, the Titans were formidable. Cronus led them with iron resolve. His brother Iapetus, father of Atlas, was a fierce warrior. Hyperion, lord of light, scorched the battlefield with solar fire. Coeus, Creus, and the other elder gods rained destruction on their younger kin. The early years of the war were marked by devastation. Battles erupted across the cosmos. In Thessaly, the earth cracked open as Titans hurled entire mountains. Rivers changed course, and forests were burned to ash. Mortal life, though distant and untouched by divine politics, felt the tremors in dreams and natural disasters. The war was cosmic, but its echoes reached even the smallest blade of grass. Zeus knew that strength alone would not win this war. The Titans were too many, too entrenched in their power, so he turned to those whom Cronus had long ignored and imprisoned. Long ago, Cronus had feared the power of his own siblings. Among them were the Hecatoncheires, giants with 100 arms and 50 heads, and the Cyclopes, one-eyed smiths of incredible might. These beings had been cast into Tartarus, the deepest pit of the underworld, locked away by Cronus to prevent rebellion. Zeus descended into Tartarus. The journey was perilous. Even the gods feared that shadowed abyss. But Zeus was undeterred. He passed through the Black Gates, and there he found the Forgotten Ones. He freed the Hecatoncheires and the Cyclopes, offering them justice and freedom in return for their aid. Grateful and furious at their long imprisonment, they accepted. The Cyclopes, master craftsmen, forged weapons for the gods. For Zeus, they created the thunderbolt, a weapon of storm and sky, crackling with divine energy. For Poseidon, they forged the trident, capable of shaking the seas and splitting the land. For Hades, they made the helm of darkness, which granted invisibility and the ability to move unseen. With these new weapons, the tide began to turn. Zeus, with his thunderbolt, became the sky's fury incarnate. With each strike, he cleaved through Titan ranks. Poseidon summoned tidal waves and earthquakes, tearing through enemy formations. Hades, unseen, slipped behind enemy lines, sowing fear and chaos. But the war was not won by power alone. Zeus was more than a warrior. He was a strategist. He divided his forces, striking from unexpected angles. He created alliances with lesser gods, river spirits, and woodland nymphs. He learned to harness Gaia's own will, using the terrain to his advantage. Cronus fought with the fury of an aging king who sees his legacy crumbling. He would not surrender. On Mount Othrys, his stronghold, he summoned storms and darkness. The Titans, massive and furious, tore through Olympian forces again and again. For every victory, there was a loss. Then came the final year. Zeus called upon the Hecatoncheires. With their 100 arms, they hurled boulders as large as mountains, creating chaos across the battlefield. Their roars shook the stars. In one final, terrible assault, The gods and their allies stormed Mount Othrys. The sky burned, the earth cracked, the seas raged. Zeus faced Cronus in single combat, father against son, tyrant against liberator. The battle was long and brutal. Cronus wielded the sickle that had once felled Uranus. Zeus fought with thunder in his hands. The sky wept rain and fire as they clashed. In the end, Zeus overpowered Cronus, striking him down with a bolt that split the heavens. With Cronus defeated, the war ended. The Titans were bound in chains of unbreakable adamantine and cast into Tartarus. There, the Hecatoncheires stood guard over them for eternity. The pit was sealed with a gate of bronze and ringed with night, deeper than any mortal could ever fathom. Not all Titans met the same fate. Some, like Prometheus and Oceanus, had remained neutral or aided the Olympians. They were spared. But Atlas, brother of Prometheus, had fought fiercely for Cronus. As punishment, Zeus gave him a unique sentence. Atlas was condemned to stand at the western edge of the world, holding up the sky on his shoulders, a burden that would never end. With the war concluded, a new era dawned. Zeus and his siblings drew lots to divide the world. Zeus claimed the sky. Poseidon took the sea. Hades accepted the underworld. The earth itself remained shared by all, watched over by Gaia, and governed through law and balance. Zeus established Mount Olympus as the seat of power for the new gods. High above the mortal realm, shrouded in cloud and glory, it became the shining beacon of divine rule. There, the Olympians would reside, watching over the world. No longer hidden in caves or trapped in their father's belly, they were free. But freedom brought responsibility. The universe needed order. The elements had to be tamed. Time had to be measured. Justice, love, harvests, and death all needed guardians, and so the gods took their places. Hera became the queen of Olympus, goddess of marriage and protector of women. Demeter governed the harvest and the cycle of life. Hestia, gentle and calm, watched over hearth and home. Poseidon ruled the vast oceans, shaping them with his moods. Hades ruled the dead, creating a realm beneath the earth for the souls of mortals. Zeus, now the king of the gods, sat upon a throne of storm and sky. He ruled with a combination of justice and wrath, wisdom and pride. He listened to prayers and watched over oaths. His thunder echoed across mountaintops, reminding all, god and mortal alike, that a new power reigned. But peace is never permanent. The world had changed. Titans had fallen. Gods had risen. Yet deep in the earth, rumblings remained. The seeds of future conflict had already been sown. Still, for a time, there was calm. The war was over. Olympus had risen, and Zeus, born in secret, hidden in a cave, had become the most powerful force in the cosmos. Zeus, king of the gods. The war was over. The Titans had fallen, their reign broken by the might of the Olympians. Mount Olympus now stood not only as a mountain, but as a divine throne, a realm of sky and cloud where gods ruled from lofty heights. At the center of this celestial domain sat Zeus, the new king of the gods, crowned not by ceremony, but by victory. Zeus did not inherit his crown. He earned it through strength, wisdom, and vision. Yet, the burden of rulership was vast. He was not just the god of storms and sky anymore. He had become the guardian of cosmic order, the arbiter of justice, the keeper of oaths, and the enforcer of fate. He was, in every sense, the fulcrum upon which the divine and mortal worlds would now balance. His first act as king was to establish harmony among the Olympians. The war had ended, but peace among gods was never guaranteed. Zeus knew his siblings were powerful and prideful. He offered them roles that would suit their nature, but also kept them close to Olympus, where he could watch them. Poseidon, proud and tempestuous, was granted dominion over the seas. His trident churned the oceans, his mood shaping waves and storms. Hades, grim and secretive, took the underworld, an invisible realm beneath the earth where mortal souls would journey after death. Though he ruled apart from Olympus, his presence remained essential. Zeus himself ruled the sky, the heavens, and all that fell under the gaze of his thunderbolts. He became the enforcer of Xenia, the sacred bond of hospitality between guest and host. He punished those who broke oaths, betrayed kin, or harmed the innocent. His justice was swift, sometimes cruel, but it kept the gods in line and mortals respectful. Yet not all of Zeus's battles were fought with weapons. Some were fought in the realm of love. Zeus's relationships were legendary, complex, passionate, and often stormy. His wife and sister Hera was queen of the gods and goddess of marriage. She was noble and powerful, but also jealous and proud. Their union was marked by both divine alliance and emotional warfare. Though married to Hera, Zeus was far from faithful. His heart, and more often his desire, wandered across goddesses, nymphs, and mortal women alike. Each affair had consequences, not just for Olympus, but for the mortal world. From these unions came a pantheon of demigods and lesser deities who would shape myth and legend for generations. From the mortal Semele, Zeus fathered Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and madness. To hide the pregnancy from Hera, he concealed Semele. But Hera discovered the truth and tricked Semele into demanding Zeus appear in his true form. When he did, the sight of his divine nature incinerated her. Zeus saved the unborn Dionysus by sewing the fetus into his own thigh, from which the child was later born, a god twice born, wild and divine. With Leto, a Titaness, Zeus fathered Apollo and Artemis, twins of light and shadow. Apollo, radiant and wise, became the god of music, healing, and prophecy. Artemis, the huntress, took to the wild, protector of animals and young women. Their birth was not easy. Hera, in her jealousy, forbade any land to offer Leto refuge, but eventually the floating island of Delos accepted her, and there the twins were born under the stars. From Maia, a shy and quiet nymph, Zeus fathered Hermes, the clever trickster and swift-footed messenger of the gods. Hermes would grow to become a patron of travelers and thieves, a guide of souls to the underworld, and a master of mischief who amused even Zeus. With Metis, goddess of wisdom, Zeus once feared being overthrown by a child she would bear. So, in a moment of both terror and cunning, he swallowed her whole. Yet Metis's power did not vanish. Instead, it lived on inside him. One day, Zeus was overcome by a terrible headache. So severe he begged Hephaestus, the smith god, to strike his skull with an axe. From the wound leapt Athena, fully grown and armored, a goddess of wisdom, war, and strategy. Athena became one of Zeus's favorite children. She was disciplined, just, and brilliant. Where Ares, the god of war born from Zeus and Hera, was raw violence and bloodlust, Athena was tactical and noble. Zeus trusted her, and she became his counselor and champion. But family harmony was always precarious. Hera's anger at Zeus's infidelities often erupted into open rebellion. On one occasion, she plotted with Poseidon and Athena to overthrow Zeus, binding him in his sleep with chains no god could break. But Thetis, a sea goddess, summoned Briareus, a hecaton Kyrie with 100 arms, who freed Zeus. His wrath was terrible. Though he spared the rebels, he reminded them of the danger of challenging his rule. Yet Zeus was not only a god of thunder and punishment. He could be wise, even compassionate, especially when the order of the cosmos was at stake. Prometheus, a titan who had aided the Olympians during the war, became a figure of conflict. He had stolen fire from the gods and gifted it to mortals, an act of defiance against Zeus's will. Fire was not merely warmth or light, it was power, knowledge, the seed of civilization. Zeus feared what humanity might become with such gifts. To punish Prometheus, Zeus had him chained to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains. Each day, an eagle descended to devour his liver, and each night it grew back. The torment was endless. Prometheus had also foreseen a prophecy that one day a child of Zeus would overthrow him. This secret he refused to reveal. Zeus's punishment of Prometheus did not end there. He devised another gift for humanity, a trap hidden within beauty. From clay, Hephaestus sculpted a woman, and the gods gave her gifts: charm, music, curiosity, and more. She was Pandora, the first woman. Zeus gave her a jar, sealed and mysterious, and sent her to Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother. Despite warnings, Epimetheus accepted her. Pandora, driven by curiosity, opened the jar, unleashing sorrow, sickness, and pain into the world. Only hope remained trapped inside. Thus mortals were bound to suffering. Zeus had restored a balance. If they were to have fire and advancement, they would also bear burden and toil. As the world changed, so did Zeus's role. In times of crisis, he was the god of last resort. During the age of heroes, when mortals rose to challenge monsters and fate itself, Zeus watched closely. Sometimes he aided them, sending omens, storms, or divine favors. Other times he tested them, for he valued courage and humility. During one age, humanity grew wicked. Zeus looked upon them and saw greed, violence, and disrespect for both God and nature. He decided to cleanse the world, and so the great flood came. He unleashed the waters, drowning the world in divine judgment. Only Deucalion, son of Prometheus, and his wife Pyrrha were spared. They found refuge on a boat atop Mount Parnassus. After the flood, they were told to repopulate the earth by throwing the bones of their mother, stones of Gaia, over their shoulders. From these stones arose new humans, born of the earth. The flood marked a turning point. Zeus had reset the world, but not without cost. It was a reminder that even gods could despair at what they had created. As the centuries passed, Zeus's name became not just a god's, but a symbol. He was invoked in oaths and treaties, carved into temples and written in law. His will became the rhythm of the seasons, the pattern of storms, the justice of kings. But Zeus was never perfect. He was mighty, yes, but also flawed. His pride, his temper, his appetites, all were larger than life. Yet perhaps that was his greatest gift to the world, that even a god could struggle, love, err, and still seek balance. He ruled from Olympus, atop a throne of gold and cloud, thunderbolt always near. Yet he listened, he watched, he dreamed, and the world, ever changing and full of strife, continued to turn beneath his gaze. Zeus and mortals. In the age that followed the Titanomachy and the rise of Mount Olympus, Zeus reigned as king not only over gods, but over mortals as well. His throne stood high above the world, but his gaze never strayed far from the affairs of humankind. For all his might and divinity, Zeus was deeply enmeshed in the lives, passions, triumphs, and failures of mortals. The myths of his interactions with humanity remain some of the most vivid in Greek lore. Stories of love and betrayal, punishment and reward, and the delicate balance between fate and free will. Though Zeus was the keeper of justice and cosmic order, he was also a god of appetite, a being of thunder and passion. Nowhere was this more apparent than in his many affairs with mortal women. Zeus, despite being married to Hera, was infamous for his relentless pursuit of love, often using deception, shape-shifting, and divine power to seduce or approach those who caught his eye. Among his most well-known affairs was with Alcmene, the wife of Amphitryon. Zeus, desiring her, transformed himself into her husband and came to her in disguise while Amphitryon was away at war. From this union came Heracles, Hercules, perhaps the most renowned of all Greek heroes. Born with extraordinary strength, Heracles would perform the 12 labors and eventually be welcomed to Olympus, becoming a god himself. Then there was Danae, the daughter of King Acrisius of Argos. Fearing a prophecy that his grandson would bring about his death, Acrisius locked Danae in a bronze chamber. But Zeus, determined and cunning, transformed himself into a shower of golden light that poured through the roof and impregnated her. From this miraculous conception was born Perseus, the slayer of Medusa and rescuer of Andromeda. Another tale speaks of Leda, queen of Sparta. Zeus took the form of a magnificent swan and flew into her arms, seeking refuge from a pursuing eagle. Whether out of seduction or force, their union resulted in the birth of Helen of Troy, whose beauty would spark the greatest war of the ancient world. Leda also bore Clytemnestra and the twins Castor and Pollux, each child shaped by divine and mortal blood. The abduction of Europa is another enduring myth. Europa, a Phoenician princess, was gathering flowers near the sea when Zeus appeared to her as a gentle white bull. Entranced by its beauty, Europa climbed onto its back. In an instant, the bull surged into the sea and carried her across the waters to Crete. There, Zeus revealed his true form and made her the queen of the island. From their union came Minos, who would become the legendary king of Crete. In the myth of Io, Zeus's desires caused even more turmoil. Io was a priestess of Hera, and when Zeus fell for her, he enveloped the world in a mist and seduced her. To hide his infidelity, he transformed Io into a white heifer, but Hera, suspecting his actions, demanded the heifer as a gift and set the 100-eyed giant Argus to watch over her. Zeus, wanting to free Io, sent Hermes to slay Argus. After many trials, Io wandered the world, tormented by a gadfly sent by Hera. Eventually, she reached Egypt, where Zeus restored her to human form and granted her peace. Though his love brought forth heroes, Zeus's wrath was equally legendary. Those who defied divine order or committed great hubris suffered endlessly. Sisyphus, king of Corinth, was clever beyond measure and dared to deceive the gods. He chained Thanatos, the god of death, so no one could die. He betrayed Zeus's secrets. As punishment, Sisyphus was condemned to roll a massive boulder up a hill in the underworld, only for it to roll back down each time he neared the top. For eternity, he would labor fruitlessly, his cleverness turned into his curse. Then there was Tantalus, a favored son of Zeus who betrayed divine hospitality. Inviting the gods to a banquet, he served them the flesh of his own son, Pelops, to test their omniscience. The gods were horrified. For this unspeakable crime, Zeus cast Tantalus into Tartarus. There he stood in a pool of water beneath a tree heavy with fruit. But whenever he bent to drink, the water receded. Whenever he reached for the fruit, the branches lifted. He remained forever tantalized. Thus the origin of the word. Niobe, queen of Thebes and daughter of Tantalus, also faced Zeus's punishment indirectly. Boasting of her many children and mocking Leto, the mother of Apollo and Artemis, she declared herself more deserving of worship. Enraged, Zeus allowed his twin children to take vengeance. Apollo slew her sons, and Artemis struck down her daughters. Crushed by grief, Niobe fled to Mount Sipylus, where the gods turned her into stone. Even as a rock, she was said to weep for her lost children. But Zeus was not always a god of punishment. He could be a protector and savior, particularly in the story of the Great Flood. When humanity became wicked and corrupt, Zeus decided to cleanse the earth. He unleashed a cataclysmic flood that drowned most of the mortal world. Only Deucalion, son of Prometheus, and his wife Pyrrha survived. Warned by Prometheus, they built a sturdy chest and floated upon the waters until the storm subsided. Landing on Mount Parnassus, they sought guidance on how to repopulate the world. The oracle of Themis told them to throw the bones of their mother behind them. Understanding this riddle, they threw stones, the bones of Gaia, Mother Earth, and from these sprang a new race of humans. This act of wisdom and humility preserved mankind, and Zeus, appeased by their reverence, allowed humanity a new beginning. Zeus was also a staunch guardian of Xenia, the sacred law of hospitality. Travelers and strangers were to be treated with kindness, for any could be a god in disguise. One of the most powerful stories emphasizing this comes from the myth of Baucis and Philemon. When Zeus and Hermes visited a village disguised as poor wanderers, they were turned away by all save an elderly couple, Baucis and Philemon. Despite their poverty, the couple offered food, drink, and their humble shelter. Touched by their generosity, Zeus revealed his divinity and offered to grant them a wish. They asked only to die together and serve the gods forever. As a reward, Zeus transformed their home into a temple and granted their wish. Upon their deaths, they became intertwined trees, an oak and a linden, standing side by side forever. Through these stories, the ancient Greeks understood Zeus not just as a mighty god, but as a complex figure embodying justice, passion, and the unpredictable nature of fate. His blessings brought forth heroes and kingdoms. His wrath toppled the arrogant and prideful. His love, however reckless, gave rise to legends. And his judgments taught mortals the values of humility, respect, and reverence. Perhaps that was Zeus's greatest lesson to humankind, that even the most powerful among gods could be deeply flawed, yet still hold the burden of maintaining order in a chaotic world. Legacy of Zeus, symbolism and influence. Zeus, the thunder-wielding king of the gods, was not merely a figure of ancient worship. He was a mythic archetype, a cultural pillar, and a symbol whose resonance has echoed across millennia. While his deeds filled the skies with storms and shaped the world of gods and mortals, his legacy would go far beyond Olympus. In temples, poems, statues, and films, Zeus remained an enduring icon of power, authority, and divinity. Zeus as a symbol of authority and justice. To the ancient Greeks, Zeus was the ultimate authority. He was not only a king in the divine realm, but the supreme judge who upheld the natural order. Zeus was the god of Xenia, the sacred law of hospitality, ensuring that hosts treated guests with respect and that guests honored their hosts. Violating this sacred code risked Zeus's wrath. Zeus was also associated with oaths, binding agreements, and moral obligations. Swearing by Zeus lent a vow its gravest seriousness. He was the keeper of Dike, the personified spirit of justice. As a moral overseer, Zeus struck down the arrogant and elevated the righteous. Though his punishments were sometimes harsh, they were often reminders of the consequences of hubris. Sacred symbols and animals. Zeus was represented by powerful symbols. Chief among them was the thunderbolt, a divine weapon forged by the Cyclopes during the Titanomachy. It symbolized both destruction and divine will. His scepter, often shown in art, marked his kingly authority. His sacred animal was the eagle, the king of birds, symbolizing strength, vision, and dominion over the skies. Ancient coins and temples often bore the image of an eagle alongside Zeus. The oak tree was also sacred to him, embodying wisdom and endurance. When winds rustled through oak leaves, it was said that Zeus himself was speaking. Places of worship: Olympia and Dodona. Zeus's worship was widespread across the Hellenic world. One of the most famous temples dedicated to him stood at Olympia, where the Olympic Games were held in his honor every 4 years. These games were not just athletic contests, but sacred rites celebrating physical excellence and divine favor. A massive statue of Zeus, crafted by the sculptor Phidias, once stood in the Temple of Zeus at Olympia. It was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, depicting Zeus seated on a grand throne, crowned and holding a scepter. Another important sanctuary was at Dodona in Epirus, where the oldest oracle of Greece resided. Priests and priestesses interpreted the rustling of oak leaves and the sounds of doves to deliver Zeus's messages. Unlike the cryptic utterances of the oracle of Delphi, Zeus's oracle at Dodona was more direct, providing insights into everyday concerns, from agriculture to marriage. Zeus and the pantheon of sky gods. Zeus is not unique in being a sky god. In fact, nearly every major ancient culture revered a deity associated with the heavens. The Roman Jupiter, who inherited many of Zeus's traits, became central in Roman religion. Like Zeus, Jupiter wielded thunder, ruled the pantheon, and was associated with justice. In Norse mythology, Odin shared some attributes with Zeus: wisdom, authority, and leadership. Although Odin was more complex and associated with war and poetry, his position as chief god mirrors Zeus's. In Hinduism, Indra, the thunder god and king of heaven, is perhaps the closest parallel. He too wielded lightning and battled serpentine enemies to protect order. In Mesopotamian mythology, Marduk rose to become king of the gods after slaying Tiamat, much like Zeus's conquest of the Titans. These cross-cultural similarities reflect a shared human instinct to personify natural forces and establish divine order. From Zeus to Jupiter, Roman transformation. When the Romans adopted Greek gods, they reshaped them to fit their worldview. Zeus became Jupiter, also known as Jove, a god of the sky, oaths, and governance. The transformation was not just nominal. Roman mythology gave Jupiter a sterner, more state-oriented persona. While Zeus was full of passions and flaws, Jupiter emphasized law and sovereignty. Temples to Jupiter. Optimus Maximus stood at the heart of Roman cities. He was invoked in oaths of loyalty to the state and often appeared on Roman coinage. The Romans preserved many stories about Zeus, but modified them to reflect Roman ideals of discipline, duty, and empire. Zeus in Western art and literature. The Renaissance brought a resurgence of interest in classical mythology. Artists like Michelangelo, Rubens, and Goya depicted Zeus in all his majesty and fury. Whether hurling thunderbolts or abducting Europa in the form of a bull, Zeus represented divine power, creative energy, and sometimes dangerous passion. In literature, Zeus appears in countless works, from Homer to Shakespeare. He is both revered and questioned. While Homer presents him as a god of wisdom and might, later poets and philosophers often criticized his moral ambiguity. In Euripides' plays, characters sometimes defy or accuse Zeus of injustice, highlighting the complexity of his mythos. In the Enlightenment, Zeus became a symbol of outdated despotism to some thinkers, who favored reason over divine will. Yet in Romanticism, he returned as a dramatic figure of awe and imagination. Psychological interpretations, the Zeus complex. Modern psychology has found fertile ground in myth. Carl Jung and his followers viewed gods like Zeus as archetypes, primordial images embedded in the collective unconscious. Zeus represents the father archetype, the lawgiver, the enforcer, the protector, and sometimes the tyrant. In some psychological frameworks, the Zeus complex describes individuals who exhibit dominating, patriarchal, and commanding behaviors. Often associated with men in positions of power, the Zeus complex is both a critique of authoritarianism and an exploration of masculine identity. Zeus's many affairs and his pursuit of control also invite analysis from psychoanalytical perspectives. His mythology has been used to explore themes of infidelity, power dynamics, and the tension between order and chaos within the human psyche. Zeus in modern media and pop culture. Zeus remains a towering figure in modern media. He appears in novels, television, movies, and video games. In Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson series, Zeus is reimagined for younger audiences as a stern but sometimes misguided father figure. In the Disney film Hercules, Zeus is a benevolent, jovial figure, contrasting his often harsh portrayals in ancient myth. Hollywood has reinterpreted Zeus in various ways. In Clash of the Titans, he is portrayed as a majestic, conflicted ruler. In video games like God of War, Zeus is a complex antagonist, embodying both the grandeur and the flaws of divine authority. Zeus also appears in comic books, where he is sometimes an ally and sometimes a threat to superheroes. His image has been commodified in branding, sports teams, and even technology. Thunderbolts and eagles remain potent symbols, used to evoke strength and command, the enduring symbol. Despite the centuries, Zeus has never truly vanished. He continues to embody the eternal struggle between power and responsibility, justice and tyranny, desire and restraint. In classrooms, courts, art studios, and dreamscapes, the shadow of Olympus looms large. Zeus is not just a character from old stories. He is an idea of rule, of sky-reaching ambition, of the divine made human and the human-made God. Through Zeus, ancient humanity gave form to its highest ideals and deepest fears. His myths were lessons, warnings, entertainments, and sacred truths. His legacy reminds us that even gods are reflections of our own nature, and that in telling their stories, we better understand our own. The legacy of Zeus, king of gods and storms, is not merely etched in marble or sung in epic verse. It lives on, electrified in thunder, echoed in justice, and etched in the imaginations of those who still look to the sky and wonder about the will of heaven.